Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Oz, thank you for the time that we spend in the office. How many members do you meet with?
I met with every single member except Senator Sanders, who I caught in the elevator coincidentally yesterday. So, but he's been on my show, so I met him before.
Oh. Well, I appreciated the time. I thought we had a very good discussion, and we covered most of the topics that I needed to convince me I was going to support your nomination. You and I spent a fair amount of time geeking out over organization change. And give me an idea of how you're going to spend your first 90 days.
Your advice actually I took to heart, and it was directed at how do you lead a large organization. So there's, first up, the whole broader idea of what's the shared vision? Where do we want to head? And as a group, if we can get people excited about their jobs, they'll show up, not just show up physically, but emotionally. You also cautioned me that I should look beneath the leadership to what people in the rank and file, maybe 3 or 4 levels down, are thinking and saying about the organization, because they have remarkable wisdom and often they're not heard. So these are the career officials. There are almost 7,000 people at CMS. So it's a lot of folks that we want to talk to. CMS has another interesting dynamic, which is it's got about 40,000 contractors that it does the work through. So we want them to feel the same pride of authorship for what comes out of CMS. We want them to believe that the charge they've been given is a sacred one, to take care of our most vulnerable. And because it defines who we are, it's something that we cannot skirt in any way.
I think you can be an enabler, and all of my experience with enterprise transformation, the best ideas came from the organization, not consultants. We just got their recommendations elevated, and then we created sustainable change. And I think you have to get resources outside of the agency to get the best of all the ideas inside of the agency. It's counterintuitive. I do have a question for you. If confirmed, as we're going through and trying to do all the enterprise efficiencies that the DOGE effort is after, when you're confirmed, I strongly believe that Senate-confirmed leaders of agencies have to be at the helm. They have to be the ones. It will undermine your ability to manage your organization if they think there are two different ways or 2 different bosses, for example. DOGE makes a lot of sense, but pretty quickly, all of that has to be operationalized in a way that you, the leader of CMS, can manage and execute. Do you agree with that concept?
I agree. I'm a heart surgeon. You don't go to the OR with 2 surgeons. One person has their name on the chart. It's an ongoing discussion point at Columbia that in your time of need, you don't want to be surrounded by intellectuals. You want to be surrounded by people of action. So one person goes in there. When there's a bleeder, they decide what stitch to place. They put their finger on the hole. They deal with those issues because they're the one that's responsible to the family.
When I was Speaker of the House in North Carolina for 4 years, and I had a lot of people coming up to me recommending health care, proposing legislative fixes. I told them all the same thing. Don't come to me unless you have an idea for obviously maintaining current outcomes. But unless you have an idea that reduces costs, improves outcomes, or increases access. If you have 1 of them, I may be interested. If you have 2 of them, you've definitely got my attention. If you have 3 of them, we're going to get the bill passed. And we did. And we worked on the Medicaid program in North Carolina. We did not allow Medicaid to get expanded under Obamacare when I was there because we had to clean up the mess that I inherited. And then the subsequent speaker did expand Medicaid, and I think it's working pretty well. I did have a question on, there were a couple of people, by the way, I complimented Senator Whitehouse on ferret, being after you like a ferret. We all need to be after you like a ferret. I used to have a ferret named Garrett. Actually, I just realized I got a staff named Garrett. But I like the analogy. We need to be after you because it's interesting in these questions that are being, everybody's frustrated with Medicaid, right? Everybody thinks we can do some work on Medicare. But this has been a bipartisan failure to really modernize and make leaner and put more money in patient-facing operations. We've got to have less money in all the plumbing. And so I just want a commitment from you. Within your first 90 days, would you be willing to host a meeting on your turf with any of the members of the Finance Committee that would like to see your vision for enterprise transformation for CMS?
Senator Tillis, I would welcome the opportunity to host members of this committee and other interested parties. In fact, I need your help. And let me just speak to one issue, as you brought it up, and your expertise historically had been enterprise transformation. There are probably 150 people who control healthcare in America, and they don't really want anything to change. This is not an accident that we're here. And Senator Marshall, I could.
Well, I'm going to be sensitive to everybody's time, but that's why I'm going to give you a copy of this book. Do you remember this book?
Yes.
I'm going to give, I ordered copies for a lot of my colleagues. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? It's a story of a maze that you're going to find yourself in at CMS. And there are two types of people that are going to be in that maze. Sniff and Scurry, who were the mouses who figured out where the cheese was and they embraced change, and Hem and Haw. They were the little people in the maze who just resisted any idea of change. But ladies and gentlemen, all the frustrations we have, whether Democrats are in control, we're complaining about it, or Republicans in control, they're complaining about it, are structural problems where we need to set politics aside and enable a leader to fix it. There have been capable Democrat nominees and Republican nominees that were never given a chance. So we want to move the cheese. We want to produce better outcomes. We want to do it at a lower price point, and we want more people to have access. And clearly, anybody who needs Medicaid should be on it. The only thing, we're not talking about caregivers, we're not talking about sick people, we're not talking about people with a diagnosed behavioral health problem. We're talking about people that we do want to provide Medicaid for, if they can't afford it, but work so that they actually get the benefit and the freedom that comes from a job. That's all we're asking about. All these other things are insane. We're probably only talking about a single-digit portion of the population, and if we keep on playing those games, we're going to have a problem. I hope you're there for change. Thank you.
God bless you, sir.